Danielle Smith, as you know, she went to a Prager event, I think it was last week. Of course, going on a huge American platform to talk directly to Republicans whose opinions Donald Trump cares deeply about. This is Donald Trump's base. And she went there to make the case for free trade to Donald Trump's base. And Ben Shapiro has been against tariffs from the beginning. Why wouldn't she talk to him? It's like going on Fox News. Like, why would you go on CNN, Doug Ford? Why wouldn't you go on Fox News that Trump watches? So she went there and she was asked about her rationale for speaking with American commentator Ben Shapiro.
I would say that when my most recent trip to speak with Ben Shapiro, he is the second largest listened to podcaster in the United States. He's got an audience in all his platforms of 25 million. We had a very constructive conversation where I talked about the integration of our economies on everything from oil and gas in Alberta to critical minerals in British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, and all of our provinces and territories, cars from Ontario, uranium from Saskatchewan. And that to me is what the Team Canada approach is. Every single province has a vital, important relationship with the U.S. that has mutual benefit. And the next day, Mr. Shapiro spent a good deal of his podcast talking about why he's so opposed to tariffs. So those are the kind of things, those are the influencers that will have influence on the decision makers around the president. And from what I'm hearing, they still haven't settled on what it's going to look like tomorrow. So I think we had to do full court press right to the last minute. We're going to keep on doing that.
Oh, just
Exactly.
brilliant. That is a woman who knows how this works and is working her fingers to the bone on behalf of not only Alberta. You heard her; she was talking about Saskatchewan uranium and Saskatchewan potash. Did she say? This is a woman who knows how to reach the people that are going to make the decisions, and it is through their media landscape. And I mean, nobody is doing a better job or doing heavier lifting for the country of Canada than Danielle Smith. We are so lucky to have her, Canada. We are just so lucky to have her.
Like, this makes a far more positive impact than Doug Ford threatening to cut off electricity to poor people in New York.
You think? You think having a friendly, good neighbor, good faith relationship will draw more bees than Doug Ford? I mean,
Doug Ford's vinegar and bile.
Yes, exactly. His vinegar and antagonistic approach. I mean, this is where we're going to see results, and it'll be really interesting to see how the United States responds with their tariffs when they're announced. It'll be really interesting.
I mean, that's later on today. I think Rebel News will be streaming the Trump press conference. Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're going to go live with that when it does happen. Now, I'm glad you mentioned neighborly, because Danielle Smith is down there reminding them that, hey, for our history, save for, that time that we burned down the White House so long ago, we have been the greatest allies and trading partners in the history of, humanity, right? Like the Americans and Canadians, the amount of business we do with each other, living in peace, side by side, it really should be the envy of the world. And that relationship has been destroyed by the liberals and their anti-Trump rhetoric over the last 10 years. Now, CTV News, they've obtained video of Premier Smith being neighborly to the Americans, like not being a Doug Ford bile-filled lunatic. And apparently that's just appalling to them. They're going to clutch their pearls here and fling themselves on the fainting couch.
Just unreal.
CTV News has obtained video from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's controversial appearance at a fundraiser in Florida last week. Here's some of that.
When anyone asks me the question about the 51st day, and this room will appreciate that, you know that Canada tends to be a little bit more progressive. That would be like adding another California to your electoral system.
sort of tough to make out the audio there, right? She went on to say it's probably best for Canada and the U.S. to stay friends. This is from her fireside chat with Trump supporter and tariff opponent Ben Shapiro. Danielle Smith also told the crowd the Liberals' switch from Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney as leader resulted in a surge of support for the governing party. Premier Smith traveled to the event with staff members at the taxpayers' expense, but her office has declined a CTV News request for more information on what she talked about.
They didn't hide any of it. She did a podcast. What are they talking about? It wasn't a secret trip. It's there. Go on Prager. You can see it.
It was a public. It's meant for public consumption. She didn't say anything that was ridiculous or out of hand or anything. And what she said, I think, is so important because the
you don't want
United States.
all of us.
You for sure not. You want to cut that off at the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border. If this is something that we're going to explore, nothing east of Manitoba. Okay, nothing east of Manitoba because that's a true story. Adding 40 million mostly left-leaning progressives to the population of the United States would not benefit the United States, not in any meaningful way. And we know as Canadians, we are highly regional, and our needs are much different than those of our even closest neighbors. And you can't have a geography this huge and this vast and bundle it all up into one and think that you're going to get good representation for everybody. So what she said was right on the nose, I believe. It was perfectly said. Yeah, and
nothing was
Go on.
controversial. Like nothing. I'm still trying to figure out what was controversial there. She said, you probably don't want us to be the 51st state because we vote like Californians nationally. That's right.
Yes.
We just had Justin Trudeau for 10 years. She's right. Good reminder. It's not like she said, yes, definitely take Alberta. She didn't say that. I don't know why they're like, we don't know what else she said. She went there to do a public speaking event, you guys. Go watch it. Like, go watch it.
Leave it to CTV to sort of seed that thought of acrimony in their viewers' minds. Like, of course, CTV, who is funded by the federal government, couldn't say, and here comes Danielle Smith saying a whole bunch of smart things to the people that the president listens to in the United States. Of course, they couldn't say that because that would be alienating their base, who is just living and breathing on this anti-American sentiment right now. Of course, they couldn't say that. Like, and we can't expect better of them. We just can't.
I also like the sideways shift now into fiscal conservatism by CTV, where they're like, she went down there at the expense of the taxpayer. And it's like, Carney just took a victory tour of Europe. On the Challenger.
He went to 3 European countries and met with their heads of state.
And instead of going to Washington.
Yeah, and this was after he was installed as prime minister, did not have a mandate, and didn't get any agreements out of those 3 nations that he met with. So what are we talk about a double standard, CTV? Talk about a double standard you're applying here.
Look, I love to criticize politicians on the amount of money they spend flying around all over the place.
Yeah.
But for Premier Smith and a handful of staff to fly business class to Florida to save the country from crushing tariffs, I'm sorry, I don't care. I think that's a good bang for the buck. I think.
Yes. If you asked everyday regular working Albertas, hey, you okay paying a couple $1,000s for Danielle Smith to go talk to the guy that President Trump listens to? Guaranteed the majority of them would say yes. Yes, I am more than okay with that.
Yeah,
Thanks
they would
so
be like,
much.
can I throw her $5? Like, can I help cover the cost? Like, this is the dumbest thing. And like for CTV to suddenly care about travel expenses, give me a break. Give me
Or
a break
taxpayer,
right now.
or taxpayer funds. CTV, where'd all your subsidies come from?
Yeah, we just watched Mr. Burns do a victory tour of Europe instead of hopping the hour-and-a-half flight to Washington to deal with tariffs, and you're worried about Danielle Smith and I'm going to say 3 handlers going to Florida to try to make the case against tariffs. to people who will listen, by the way. It's just so insincere. It's ridiculous.
It really is. It really is.